Emily Pauline Johnson was born in 1861. Her mother was of English background and her father was Mohawk. Johnson grew up understanding both ways of life from her parents. She grew up around Six Nations of the Grand River near to what is now Brantford, Ontario. She grew up in a house her father built called Chiefswood, which is still standing today and is a natural site and museum. Johnson grew up with 3 siblings. Once Johnson's father died in 1884, she moved to Brantford and lived there with her family. Johnson began writing poetry for her enjoyment. Once her father died, she started performing her work as a means to financially support herself and her family. Johnson began performing dressed in her British attire. She got the idea to wear Aboriginal outfits from stereotyped clothing used in popular Wild West shows, which North American non-Aboriginals were fond of. Johnson was respected in English society because she was half English and used that privilege to get non-Aboriginal settlers interested in her work. She then used this popularity to educate settlers about issues facing Aboriginal peoples. So how did Johnson's poetry work as an act of colonial resistance? Looking at the following examples, it will be clear that Johnson used her poetry as entertainment, but also addressed underlying examples of racism and discrimination towards Aboriginal peoples. Johnson's poem, The Cattle Thief, written in 1900, is a clear example of Johnson's work that examines the inequality faced by Aboriginal peoples in Canada at the hand of settlers. The poem is about a Cree man who kills a cow to feed his starving family. The cow belongs to a settler person. The settler man and others chase down the Cree man and kill him for stealing a cow. The daughter of the Cree man then stands up to the settlers and describes ways that the settlers have created injustices on their peoples. The poem's last paragraph ends with, "You say your cattle are not ours. Your meat is not our meat. When you pay for the land you live in, we'll pay for the meat we eat. Give back our land and our country, give back our herds of game, give back the furs and forests that were ours before you came. Give back the peace and plenty, then come with your new belief, and blame if you dare the hunger that drove him to be a thief." Johnson's poem, The Cattle Thief, is an act of resistance because she recognizes that the treatment of Aboriginal peoples is unfair and vocalizes her concerns to non-Aboriginal peoples. She uses her art to educate non-Aboriginal peoples that there are injustices occurring to Aboriginal people by the settler society. The poem, As Red Men Die, written by Johnson in the late 1800s, also examines settler and Aboriginal relations, but rather emphasizes the stereotypes created by settlers about Aboriginal peoples. Phrases such as, "And with they, Mohawk death song please our ear," and "Their scalps will deck the belts of Iroquois." These examples show that Johnson was able to pick up on the stereotypes about Aboriginal people. Johnson for a time was a powerful Aboriginal woman. She resisted discrimination and injustices through her art. She educated Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal peoples about the issues. Johnson is well known as an amazing poet, writer, and performer, but also must be remembered for her work as a social activist for Aboriginal people.